Hello everyone, welcome to the Redmen TV. I'm Steve Hoare and this is the player rating show after Liverpool beat Brighton by 2 goals, 2-0. Right, thanks Steve. I'm going to take over from there, mate. I'm only kidding, it's Chris Page actually, he's had to leave, he needed the toilet or something, so we are here. It is the player rating show after Liverpool beat Brighton by 2 goals to 0. The length I will go to for a joke is ridiculous. Big shout out to Joe, who made it happen, who came up with the idea. Stay, of course. I'm so sorry. Right, player ratings. If you want to vote for your man of the match, then you can do, of course. If you want to vote for Alisson as your man of match, type in to the comments, !vote, space number 1, and then press the enter key. If you want to vote for Luis Diaz, type into the comments, !vote, space 11 for number 11, and then hit that enter key, and you will be able to vote for it. I'm assuming that was... No, it wasn't. Steve texted me yet. He hasn't got it yet. I'm sure he will do very soon. Is that Steve? What's he saying? Unnecessary. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. so sorry, Steve. Oh, dearie me, it is what it is. Alisson Becker in net made one hell of a save, didn't he, towards the end? And that's what you need him for. That's why you've got a world-class goalkeeper. You don't need him all of the game, but when you need him, he needs to step up. And Alisson, once again, does step up. And this time with a hell of a palm over the bar from fairly close range. And that's the type of thing that, as I say, you need your goalkeeper to be able to do. It's an 8 out of 10 performance because of that for me. And yeah, I'm glad, of course, that he wasn't injured as well. I noticed during the game that Caoimhin Kelleher was very much looking at Alisson while everybody else was watching the game. Just wondering whether he was going to be needed. I'm going to have to warm up. What's going on here? Alisson looked to be fine, which is absolutely fantastic. Keep your votes for man of the match coming in. We'll get to them after we do some comments, after the player ratings, of course. And actually, as we're going along, if you just want to say Alisson 9, like Genevieve Chua, then you can do. She gave Alisson, or he gave, I don't know, actually. I'm assuming it's a she. I might be completely wrong. I'm sorry. Let's go with they, that. Is that the right terminology? I have no idea. Why did I say it? I've got no clue. Alisson Becker, 8 out of 10 for me. For they, them, he, her, him, Genevieve, it's a 9, it's fine. Why am I still talking about it? Just move on. You can quickly move on to Andrew Robertson, and there he is. Whew. Hopefully no one noticed me fucking that shit up. Andy Robertson playing left back. It's not even the person that I normally go to. I go to Trent Alexander-Arnold. I'm so confused right now. I'm going to go to Andy Robertson next. For me, it was an 8 or 9 out of 10 performance from him once again. You know, he's up and down that left wing like he always is. Interviewed on BT afterwards, and they're talking about the one game in the time and all that type of stuff. And will you do that? And he said something that's so pertinent, isn't it? You can only do what you can do, and that's what he's talking about is with regards to Brighton. You have to play Brighton today. You beat Brighton today, and you move on to the next game that now matters the most to you. And Andy Robertson today linked up really well with Luis Diaz. He spoke about that burgeoning relationship between the two of them. Diaz knows exactly what Robertson is going to do. Robertson feels like he's got a good understanding of what Diaz is going to do. I think the three of them, Keita, Diaz, Robertson, linked up really well on that left-hand side. There's a few times when Robertson's sort of bombing into the penalty area, pulling it back. One where he just misses the ball back, a couple of times where there's good crosses there. He's constantly on the front foot. He's constantly asking questions of their right wing back. And, you know, he's got Sully March over there as well, and he's making him work for it. Siam Gosh says Robbo 8, Michael Zammit Robbo 8, John Gordon Robbo 8, Graham Brown Robbo 8 out of 10. So yeah, I think the overwhelming majority right now is an 8 out of 10. So I'll stick with an 8 out of 10 with you guys, of course. We'll move on then to Virgil van Dijk, who I think had another good performance today. And again, much like Alisson, much like probably we'll talk about with Joel Matip, you've got a job to do and you do that well. And then once you can do that, you then can build on that. You know, we saw probably 3 or 4 long balls from Virgil van Dijk today. 3 of them, I think, were on target. 1 was headed by maybe Lamptey or something like that. But he's able to move the play so quickly to the other side of the pitch. It really is such an incredible weapon. His range of passing is absolutely superb. He's in control of every situation defensively. defensively. You know, there's times when, I'll give you an example, Luis Diaz is running at his man and he's in control of the situation. That tends to be the case, doesn't it, when you think about a forward dribbling with the ball at a defender. What Van Dijk does is he flips that switch. He flips it completely on its head. And he takes control of the situation, even though he doesn't have the ball. And it's actually, I think, one of his best qualities as a centre-back. You know, he moves away and moves away and moves away and keeps going, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? What are you going to do? Until they're in their own head and they are then not in control of the situation because they've got themselves into a situation where Van Dijk knows what they're going to do. He's pushed them into a corner and making them make a decision. And the decision that he wants is the final outcome of what generally happens. 8 out of 10 performance from Virgil. I think his centre-back partner, for me, absolutely superb as well. Joel Matip, 9 out of 10. I mean, I think all told, they probably had the same sort of game, but Joel Matip walks away with an assist, and what an assist it was. I mean, you know, he's down, he's on that right-hand side, isn't he? He's across the halfway line, and he's looking good on the ball, and he sees Luis Diaz bending his run, and he hits the ball to perfection. It's floated, it's quite high, but Diaz enough time to come from that wide left position to make that run across the goalkeeper, crucially enough, and across his man, to be able to get it on the bounce. So we get a wonderful assist there. We'll talk about the Diaz thing a little bit later, of course, but the assist itself is absolutely superb. Helped, of course, by Trent Alexander-Arnold taking a wide right position, keeping the defenders away from Joel Matip. Once that space is in front of him, he knows exactly what he's going to do. And I think when you talk about Matip, you talk 5 clearances, you talk 1 block shot, you talk 1 assist, 1 key pass, and of course 1 gallop down the field, which was absolutely superb to see. Because he does it at least once a game. He did it in this game. He makes things difficult for players. He asks questions of players. Everyone's got a man, of course, they've got a man, and then Joel Matip goes, whoomph, you ain't got me though, have you? You know what I mean? And I love him to bits. So it's a 9 out of 10 performance from him. Trent Alexander-Arnold, I think defensively sound. I think we're seeing a stronger, more physical Trent Alexander-Arnold. Mentioned, I was talking to John Machin at the match the other night against Inter Milan. He looks like he's got a spider sense for danger now, hasn't he? That's what I'm seeing time and time again, is that Trent is starting to not get caught out. And I think today, you know, not a great example. I don't think he was quite as on it in a front foot scenario today, but I don't think he had to be. Liverpool controlled that game, I think, from pretty much minute 10 to minute 90, and they played the game where they wanted to play the game, and they committed as many bodies forward as they wanted to without leaving the back door open. Trent was part of that. We didn't see him in that sort of inside forward position very often during open play. We didn't see him go marauding across the front line like we've seen in games before. We saw him largely stay in his position and play it like a modern fullback, not a Trent Alexander-Arnold fullback performance, but that's absolutely fine as well. I'm going to give Trent an 8 out of 10. Rohit gives Trent an 8 out of 10. Genevieve, 8.5. Tushif, 8 out of 10. 8. Decent performance, says Slavin. Trent was very controlled and rarely gave the ball away, says Ollie Christian. I agree with all of those things. What's for dinner? Says, I reckon Paul, Chris and the Redmen team deserve a few pints tonight. We all deserve a few pints tonight to celebrate the fact that Liverpool have got another 3 points closer to Manchester City. The gap, 3 points, of course. We're on 66. They're on 69. They play Monday night at Selhurst Park. Looking forward to that game, of course, before our game against Arsenal midweek. Well, you've asked it, what's for dinner? Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, my dinner consists of scouse. My mum's scouse, no less. And I think, if I'm right, it's normally beef and lamb in her scouse, loads of potatoes, of course, beetroot, I'd imagine. A choice of beetroot or red cabbage. Who knows? I'll probably go both because, yeah, greedy. It is what it is. Back to the player ratings then. I'm going to go with Fabinho next. And quite a sort of reserve performance today from Fabinho. I think when teams really start to attack us, that's when we see Fabinho flourish. Today, there was no need for him to flourish as such in a defensive sense because we did largely control the game. And even when they had the ball, I felt like Liverpool were in control of those situations. So Fabinho, for me, probably a 7 out of 10 performance. Decent, not outstanding in any way, shape or form, although I may well have forgotten something that he's done there. The two midfielders ahead of Fabinho as well. I think let's start with Jordan Henderson this time, and I think, you know, probably a 7 or an 8 out of 10 performance from Jordan Henderson. Oh, sorry, Amir says Fab 7, Michael Zammit 7.5. Some poor passes by Fabinho, but otherwise he was relatively solid. Henderson, yeah, so 7 or an 8 for me. I thought he did well. I think there was a couple of misplaced passes here and there. I think he made one wrong decision when he's driving on the edge of the penalty area and he decides to shoot, doesn't quite catch it. It's a bit of a tame shot down to the keeper's right-hand side. But other than that, I thought I really liked the way he was interacting with Trent Alexander-Arnold and Mo Salah again, and starting to get round the outside of Mo Salah at times and start to whip those little balls in, which also created space for Trent to go on that underlap. And I like it when the three of them start playing like that. I think we saw it a lot at the start of the season. Throughout the middle course of the season so far, we sort of got away from it. But now I think we're starting to see us do that a little bit more with Henderson there. So yeah, good performance. Again, not outstanding. Genevieve, Hendo 7, Kylo 7 for Hendo, Rohit 7 for Hendo. Utash Gupta says his passes were very bad. There were certainly a couple of poor passes, but generally speaking, I think he was okay. Naby Keita. This is one I always look at when Paul's doing the fan reactions, I always have a look at the stats to sort of reinforce or help me decide on player ratings and stuff. I stay away from Twitter and social media because I think it can cloud your judgment a little bit too much. But Naby, for me, I thought he did really well in the game, and then I looked on the stats and he never really showed up anywhere on the stats. And that surprised me a little bit. But it also reminded me very much of Gini Wijnaldum, in that I'd do this for years, where I'd be doing player ratings after the game, and I'd look at Gini Wijnaldum and I think, what the bloody hell has he done? But I was always impressed with everything that he did on the field. And Naby's sort of, maybe it's because he's playing the same position, but right now he's doing his job for the team. And I think you could say that of all the three midfielders. If these guys flourish, generally speaking, it's because of the work that these three in the middle of the park are doing. And I think it's no surprise sometimes that, you know, you start throwing out 8s and 9s for these lads, Diaz and Salah and Trent and Robbo. And yet these lads don't get those high numbers because they don't tend to get the assists. They don't tend to get the goals. But what they do is give you that foundation to build on, whereby these lads, Trent and Robbo, can get forwards because of the work that these three are doing in the middle of the park. So for me, I think Naby was probably a 7 or an 8, very similar to Jordan Henderson. I'm going to split them both down the middle and say 7.5, 7.5, and I'm going to give Fabinho a 7 as well. Amir says Naby 9, NHD says Naby 7.5. So yeah, keep voting for your man of the match as well, of course. The instructions are underneath there. So we move on to the front three. We'll start with Mo Salah. Gets a goal, of course, from the penalty spot. Great to see him finish that, of course. I'd have liked to have seen him get one from open play. You know, he has 2 really good opportunities there where one's pulled across for him and he just fires it wide, reminiscent of the Inter one where he puts onto the post a little bit for me. In open play situations, I think he is snatching at those opportunities a little touch at the moment. Maybe he doesn't quite feel he's in as good form as he was pre-AFCON or maybe even at the AFCON, but right now he's still banging those penalties in, which is great. Klopp said after the game, you know, Mo thinks it's nothing serious, which is great to hear because he is very much Liverpool Football Club at the moment. Me and Paul are going to be doing a show later on today actually for Redmen Plus, talking about the contract situation. So if you're interested, you can sign up at the redmentv.com. There's loads and loads of content on there at the moment. Other than that, you know what, it was, again, much like Jordan and Naby, I'm probably somewhere between a 7 and an 8 out of 10 performance for Salah today. I can see Kevin says Salah 6.5. Who else have we got there? Salah 7.5 says I am Darren. And Danny just gives everybody a 10 maybe. I'm not 100% sure. I've not really got much else to add about Salah, you know, other than, yeah, snatching at his shots a little bit. Hopefully it's not serious. I'm going to move on to Luis Diaz then. This is the guy I wanted to talk about since this show started, to be perfectly frank with you all. He's just such a bloody good player, isn't he? And you know, So brave going in there with that Sanchez bearing down on him, leaving his arm and his leg in, but still being able to get that header in, and crucially on target. I think it's kind of been overlooked in all of this, that the header's absolutely superb, that he's able to sort of take it as it's coming across him and use the ball's spin to sort of direct it and sort of curve it almost into the open goal. It's so brave, it's so good, it's so bloody Luis Diaz. But he's such a handful, isn't he? That's a game where you think, oh, coming up against Brighton and all that type of stuff, you're not going to get a real feel for what the Premier League's like. That is a game where Luis Diaz gets a real feel for what the Premier League is like. You know, they were all over him, 3 players hanging off him at times. Just baffling, actually, surprising from Brighton. They tried to get in and amongst Liverpool's players, Diaz being one of them. And it didn't work. It was water off a duck's back for Luis Diaz. In fact, he got stronger because of it. As the game got on, he got stronger as well. You think of that one where he's bearing down, what a ball by Thiago to him over the top, and then he's trying to slide Jota in, just doesn't quite get it right. There's times towards the end of the game where he's cutting inside, and I think Naby ends up, not Naby, I can't remember who it was, cuts inside and tries to get a shot off. He's such a handful. He really, really, really is. He's so dribbly, so decisive, and he's such a difference maker for this Liverpool side at the moment that you've got to love Luis Diaz. And for me, he is a 9 out of 10 solidly. A solid 9 out of 10 for Luis Diaz, and he'll be getting my vote for man of the match as well. And I'll be surprised if he doesn't get yours as well. Finally, Mane from the starting 11. I'm going to give Mane an 8 out of 10. I think he did that role really well today. I think he's proven that he can play that number 9 position. What we haven't seen from Mane is the sort of dribbly goodness that we've seen from Diaz over the last few weeks. Now, he's not going to do that in the number 9, of course, but even when he's out on that left-hand side, say against Inter Milan, midweek, before he moves central, I don't think he's quite as effectual at the moment as someone like a Luis Diaz. I don't think Jota was particularly effectual on that left-hand side against Inter Milan either, just to compare pairs with pairs. But in that number 9 position, he knows exactly what he's doing. He's bringing the others into play. You know, he's moving centre-halves. He's dragging them with his runs and stuff like that. So it's a very, very good performance, again, from Sadio Mane for me. A solid number 9 performance and a solid 8 out of 10 because of it. Moving on to the sub, 65 minutes. Thiago comes on, doesn't he? Double substitution, Thiago and Jota. It was Naby Keita, wasn't it? And Mo Salah who come off. And I feel a little bit sly on Thiago and Jota, but I think the game changed and game management very much. If it wasn't part and parcel of what Liverpool were doing through the first 65 minutes, it very much was what Liverpool were doing during the last 25 minutes of the game. And as such, I think it's difficult to rate these two any more than a 7 out of 10. Thiago, that ball though for Diaz is just unbelievable. And he slots in and we gain control of the game, and that was why it was the right substitution. It was him, it was Henderson. They were crossing over at times, they were playing the ball around, and they were just generally making sure that there was going to be no surprises between the 65th minute and the 90th minute of the game. So for that, I'm giving Thiago a 7. Jota the same, probably will have been disappointed not to get a goal because his eyes will have lit up, wouldn't they, as soon as he saw Diaz bearing down on goal. I think the striker in Diaz probably wanted to play for the goal, but the selflessness shone through there, and he did try, and unfortunately did fuck up the pass to Diogo Jota, but Jota will have been like licking his lips there as he's running into the penalty area, knowing that he can get another goal in red. Unfortunately, it wasn't to be. And finally, James Milner, I'm going to give a 6 out of 10 because I don't really know what he did, but he came on in the 86th minute. We shored it up for 9 minutes. We walked out of there with 3 points. We'll forget about that game, thankfully. And we'll move on to the next one. The red guy says, who's better than Figo? It's Jota, don't you know? Which is absolutely right. I'm sure I've seen videos from the ground on Instagram and stuff from Sai, who's down in Brighton. It looks like he's had a great day. And if you were down there, I'm sure you had a great day too. We've had a great day watching, of course. We've got to do the man of the match now. If anyone's got any more comments, keep them coming in. But let's round up the man of the match, actually. Is it Luis Diaz for man of the match, Joe? How many percent of the vote? 78% of the vote goes to Luis Diaz, who is man of the match as Liverpool beat Brighton by 2-0. Emmett Kavanagh, is that Emmett from Ireland? Is that, we've met before, haven't we? I hope it is. Hello if it is, I hope you're well. He just says Diaz, man of the match. Yeah. Brilliant. I mean, what more can you ask for? That's exactly what Liverpool needed, isn't it? 3 points, goal for Luis Diaz, goal for Mo Salah, hopefully not an injury, and move on to the next game. Me and Paul are going off now to do the instant match reaction and the aforementioned Salah contract talk Redmen reacts. So join us on Redmen Plus for both of those. They will be out very, very soon. Thank you, and I'll see you next time. Ta-ra.
Hey guys, thanks for watching the show. Hope you enjoyed it. If you want even more Redmen TV content in your lives, both in video and podcast formats, do check out our subscription service, Redmen Plus, over on the redmentv.com. And Ross, why should these good people sign up to Redmen Plus?
You should do that right now because you'll get access to exclusive documentaries, interviews, and all our pre- and post-match content. Plus, for the business end of the season, there's 2 games a week for most weeks, so you get even more for your money.
Head on over to the redmentv.com and sign up to Redmen Plus.